So we'll start with the small intestine. So already you know that it is a long tube which is about 7 meters in length, and this has been highly adapted to increase the efficiency of absorption. That has happened in several ways. First thing, it has become a long tube, and these are the adaptations to increase the surface area given for absorption. By being a long tube, and that long tube consists of folds on its inner wall. This is not, the inner wall is not a smooth structure. There are folds on the inner wall, and if we have a close look at those inner wall with folds, there are finger-like projections which we call as villi. Singular is villus. Then when we consider the lining of the villus, it consists of microvilli. All these adaptations are to increase the surface area. So we call this epithelium with microvilli as a brush border to increase the surface area of the inner lining of the small intestine. And this lining of the epithelial lining is a thin layer, and as a result of it, it is easy to absorb the digestive end products into the villus. And these villi are highly vascularized. You can see there are branches of arteries which form arterioles, and these arterioles are further divided into a capillary network here, and these blood capillaries get together to form the venule, and the venule takes blood away from the villus. So there is a very good supply of blood to those villi. So blood to the bloodstream, the digestive end products of carbohydrates and proteins are absorbed. And here at the middle there is the lacteal, which is a part of the lymphatic system, and digestive end products of lipids are absorbed into lacteals. Then what are the digestive end products absorbed into blood capillaries of villi? I have already mentioned monosaccharides, which are the digestive end products of carbohydrates. Then amino acids, which are the digestive end products of proteins. Then vitamins and mineral salts. Then you are asked what happens to fatty acids and glycerol formed by digestion of lipids. These are absorbed to lacteals, and later they enter into blood circulatory system, because in the lymphatic system you will learn that these lymph vessels, lacteals are connected to the lymph vessels, and these lymph vessels are ultimately connected to the blood circulatory system. Then what happens when there is high amount of glucose in blood? So when there is a high amount of glucose in blood, the excessive glucose is converted into glycogen and stored inside the liver mainly. Then when there is excessive glucose, that is converted into glycogen and stored inside the liver. And when the glucose concentration in blood is decreased, again that stored glycogen is converted into glucose and added to bloodstream. Stored glycogen is converted into glucose and added into bloodstream. This happens due to action of certain enzymes. Later we will learn about these. Then the unabsorbed materials are then sent to large intestine. So remember, the absorption of nutrients is completed inside the small intestine. Then the undigested materials are sent to the large intestine. So the processes in the large intestine. So this is also about 1.5 meters in length. It starts with the last part of the small intestine, that is the ileum. So the initial part of the large intestine is known as cecum, and the large intestine ends up at the anus. Before the anus, there is a dilated part which we call as the rectum. The materials entering into the large intestine contain a very small amount of nutrients. Mainly it contains undigested materials and water. So once we say undigested materials, the main undigested material is cellulose. So you know, cellulose is available in food containing a lot of fiber. So you have heard that when there is more fiber in our diet, what we call as dietary fiber, it facilitates the removal of fecal matter, avoiding constipation. A small blind-ended tubular structure starts at the end of the cecum, and it is known as the appendix, and it is very small in humans. It gets infected then and it becomes swollen in a certain disease which we call as, you know the term, we call it as appendicitis. The main function of the large intestine is to absorb water from received matter by the ileum, the last part of the small intestine. Thereby, the food is not the food, the undigested material is converted into a semi-solid medium as some of the water is absorbed. When the large intestine is filled with fecal matter, it passes out from the rectum. That means it is stored inside the rectum, and it gives the signal to remove the fecal matter. So if the fecal matter is kept inside the rectum for a long time, more and more water is absorbed continuously, and it ends up with hard stools. Then we call the condition as constipation. Now you have gained a clear idea about the structure and function of human digestive system. Starting from the buccal cavity, we discussed about the pharynx, the esophagus, uh, the stomach, and then the small intestine, the digestion taking place uh, inside the buccal cavity, inside the stomach, and finally inside the small intestine, and then the absorption of water took place inside the large intestine, and the undigested material as fecal matter is removed through the anus. That's the functioning of the digestive system. Then the diseases associated with digestive system as the last part. So first disease condition. There are so many diseases, but here you are supposed to learn about few things. First thing is gastritis. So it is an inflammation of the inner lining of the mucosa. Inner lining is known as mucosa. Uh, Inner lining of the stomach. And generally this is known as the acidity inside the stomach. So regarding these diseases, you should know what are the causes for these diseases, or what are the symptoms, and how can we get avoided from these disease conditions. That is the main purpose, to give you an idea about how to get rid of these diseases associated with each of these systems. The symptoms of gastritis are regurgitation of acid to mouth, that means acidic gas. Sometimes the acids come into our mouth. Then burning feeling can be there. There is a burning sensation along the esophagus and inside the stomach. And this can cause a pain inside the stomach. If this condition is continued, ulcers can appear in stomach or the duodenal wall. When this condition is worse, and bleeding can take place, and ultimately these ulcers can end up with cancer conditions as well. Therefore, this is a condition, this is a very painful condition, and it can be avoided by using good practices. And when somebody has got these symptoms and when these are severe, they can be diagnosed by using endoscopy as well as colonoscopy. Especially endoscopy is done. And the reasons for this disorder is the reasons for the disorder are skipping of meals, when you don't take your meals on time, and if you consume acidic and spicy food frequently. Then excessive smoking and consumption of alcohol will also lead to this condition, and mental stress. Sometimes when you are under stress, you come up with the condition gastritis. Therefore, you should have a good mental health as well. By following healthy food habits, you can avoid the above condition. You have to take your food on time, and you have to maintain a good mental health. Then the next condition is known as constipation. So it is the difficulty in defecation due to hardening of fecal matter or hard stools. The fecal matter remaining in the large intestine for a long period of time leads to absorption of water more. When more water is absorbed, the stools become hard and dry. Thereby, constipation can take place. The reasons are consumption of food with low dietary fiber. If you don't eat fruits and vegetables, you will come up with this condition. And not taking required volume of water, you have to drink enough water. Then if you postpone defecation, the fecal matter will be stored inside the rectum for a long period of time. And during that period, more water is absorbed from fecal matter. Then certain medicines will also lead to constipation condition. Then due to forceful defecation, the anal canal may be damaged and bleeding can take place. So these conditions must be avoided, because all these can end up with severe conditions like cancer. Then third disease is typhoid, which is caused by a bacterium. The pathogen, the bacterium is Salmonella typhi. It gets transmitted through food. So this bacterium can enter into the body through mouth when you are swimming or bathing in water which is contaminated by this particular bacterium. The symptoms are pain in arms and legs and headache as well as fever. So at the beginning, at the initial stages, constipation can occur, and when we observe the tongue of a patient who is suffering from typhoid, there is a plaque over the white color layer on the tongue, and after some time stomach ache and diarrhea can occur, and ulcers can be formed in small intestine causing bleeding. Therefore, blood is released along with fecal matter. Due to ulcers, the wall can be damaged. The intestinal wall can be damaged, and this can be identified by a test, a blood test or a stool test, because along with stools, blood is released in this condition. Then diarrhea. This occurs when the intestines are infected with a virus, bacterium, or a parasite. So we can't specifically say that this is the causative agent. There may be several causes. This disease is transmitted by fecus of an infected person. So when there is fecal matter of an infected person through vectors like flies and other insects, this can be transferred into food. Food can get contaminated with the causative agent. The main symptom is release of fecal matter in liquid state. So the reason is the absorption of water in the large intestine is not occurring properly. Dehydration may occur due to loss of excessive fluid in this condition. If dehydration becomes worse due to diarrhea, it may be fatal, so it is better to consume more water and consult a doctor. That is why when you get a diarrhea condition, you are asked to take enough liquids to avoid dehydration. Then the above two diseases can be avoided by taking preventive measures given below. Above two means diarrhea and typhoid. These are the preventive measures: consumption of boiled water, removing fly breeding places. That means we should avoid the contamination of this food by these flies and other insects. Cover food to prevent entering of flies to food, avoiding consumption of food which are sold in open places. Always the food should be covered. Use of water seal latrines and wash hands well with soap after using the toilet. Get a vaccine for typhoid. So first 6 facts are practiced by the people frequently, and there are people who don't have these basic facilities. Therefore, these conditions should be avoided in order to get rid of these particular diseases. And in our country, the children are given this typhoid vaccine. Therefore, they can be protected. So, by learning about the functioning of the digestive system, you will be able to have an idea about its structure, how does it function, and how to avoid the diseases associated with the digestive system. So after studying this part, you can answer the past O-level paper questions which are associated with this